Okay, so how many of you, I was just wondering to ask you, was very curious to ask you a question. How many of you are aware of wearable technology, which is trending these days? Are we? So there are a lot of technologies which you can wear and then use. For example, Google Glass. How many of you have experienced a Google Glass? Anyone in this room? Okay. So 2 weeks ago, I had then, maybe 10 days ago, I had an opportunity to wear a Google Glass. An expat came to address a conference here and he was carrying one with him. And such a tremendous piece of technology it is. Nobody comes to know when you click a picture from a Google Glass. You know, nobody comes to know. So such is the intrusion of technology in our lives. And it is going to become mainstream in the near future, believe me. You know, the technology which is being worked upon, which is being researched today, is going to become mainstream very, very soon. And the first, I believe the first adopters of that technology will be none other than students, which actually then go to institutions and then force the whole institution and the academic world to adopt those technologies, because they are the ones who are very familiar and very comfortable using those technologies. And so this is something which is going to pose challenge on the educators. I'm just trying to relate to the topic of the next panel. You know, all of us in the corporate also have great amount of resistance to adopt new things, new technologies, new ways of working. You know, when the working was manual, it was very easy. When the working became computerized, digitized, it became slightly difficult. When working became process oriented, it became even more difficult. So today, you know, I believe the marking systems is also very online and very methodical, and everything is very transparent. So you can't just fudge anything, and you are accountable. So technology brings accountability too. Now, what are those skills that educators and education leaders like yourself need to be acquainted with is the topic of debate for the next panel. And I would like to call upon the three esteemed panelists for this. I will begin with calling Mr. Samir Sampath. Samir is currently Executive Director of India School Leadership Institute, one of country's only organizations exclusively focused on school leadership development. Samir has worked for Education Innovation Laboratory at Harvard University. Samir is a former high school maths teacher, a Teach of America alumni. He holds a bachelor's degree in electrical engineering from UCLA and master's in economics from Columbia University. So you can now imagine what is going to come out of Samir. Deepti Sawhney. Deepti is Education Development Specialist, Head ICT Initiatives at University Learn Today, Univ Learn Today, Learning Division of India Today Group. She heads ICT Initiatives at Learn Today, the Learning Division of India Today Group. She was a mainstream teacher for a few years, having taught the CBSE curriculum and the national curriculum for England in schools in India and the UK. So welcome, Deepti. Last but not the least, I would like to call upon Ms. Radhika Suri. Radhika is an expert educationist with over 2 decades of experience in some of India's premier education institutes. She has been instrumental in setting up iDiscover preschools across India. She headed the nursery school division at Springdale, Sanskriti and DPS. So welcome, Radhika. And to moderate this panel, I would like to call upon another youngster, Utkarsh Lokesh. Utkarsh is the co-founder and CEO of EdTech Review. So over to you, Utkarsh.
Thank you, Rahul. I would like to start with what teaching and leadership in the 21st century is actually. The teachers need to mentor, provoke, stimulate, and engage the learners. And as quoted by Sir Ken Robinson, I don't know if you have heard of him, but you should. He stated that teaching is an art form and not a delivery system, and you should not confuse it with FedEx. So what I'm trying to say is that teaching does not need only technology skills, but also the life skills and learning and innovation skills. So our objective with the time today would be to extract the skills that the educators and administrators would need today to prepare the students for the growing and changing economy. So I would like to start with an open question to all three of you. Like we all speak about college and career readiness. And we talk about going beyond the curriculum, going beyond the core subjects. What, according to you, are those skills, the 21st century knowledge and skills that educators must know? I would like to start with Samir here.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. So I would like to just start by kind of taking a step back from that. And when we think of 21st century skills that educators must know, I think we often kind of focus on that technology, which is, I think, a big piece. But when we look at training school leaders, and what we do is we train school leaders in the lower income segments, we really get them to think about what does it mean to be a 21st century organization overall. So it's not just using technology, right? So like, for example, when I was in school 20 years ago, I wasn't using Twitter, right? So my teachers weren't teaching me how to use Twitter, they were teaching me the mindsets that I needed, or the skills and the frameworks that I need to now be able to access Twitter now, today, right? So to kind of answer your question, what do the schools need for 21st century skills? I think first thing you need to do as principals and teachers is be focused on making your school a 21st century organization. So what are the management practices that you need so that there are dynamic ideas coming out? And some of those will be related to technology, but others will not, right? And so that's, I think, a key piece. I think the second piece in terms of technology is there's a lot of application for technology that can do a lot of good, but technology is just a tool, right? And so we need to make sure that we have kind of basic fundamental pieces in place for our schools in terms of pedagogical practices, instructional practices, and then be clear on how we can use technology to get us those goals, right? So I think if you look at, my last job was looking at a lot of the research on technology, both in India and developing countries as well as in places like the US. And if you read I think the best research, it's decidedly mixed on how effective is using ICT in terms of improving student learning outcomes. And I think the reason that it's mixed is because in some of these programs, we're using ICTs that is very sound pedagogically, and other places we're not. So I think one thing, the other kind of skill that I would say we need to have is just very strong pedagogical skills so we know when we can apply the technology. So if I had to kind of summarize my answer, and I'm sure we'll talk a lot more during the panel, I would say one is making sure that your organization is a 21st century organization and really dynamic and allowing new ideas to flow. And two is making sure you understand the core basics behind what makes a good school and then kind of fitting in the technology into that, as opposed to saying, I want a lot of technology, so let me do that without kind of revisiting what the basic structure should be. Thank you.
So I would like to continue from here, and I would like to ask Ms. Deepti, ma'am, you have been involved in the education, and I would like to know what are those skills apart from technology literacy, and apart from that, the life skills, the learning and innovation skills, which falls in the 21st century skills. Would you throw some light on that? I guess the skills like creativity, communication, how important are those in today's economy?
So you look at the entire agenda, today's agenda, and then you say, this is not, I don't think he'll ask me this, I don't think he'll ask me this, and then you ask me that. So well done on that. Starting from where you left, talking about the organization, I would pick on the teachers, because I have been dealing with technology integration for the last 10 years. And there are three things which I feel an educator should have in today's world. The first one being adaptability, to be able to adapt. Whatever the scenario, because there are these little ones looking at you and they're going to just emulate what you do. So adaptability is very high on my agenda. The next, of course, is innovation, to be able to innovate. That's the world today. If you're not innovating, you're nowhere. And the last one being perseverance. I think the workforce out there today loses heart too quickly. and too often. So we need to persevere. So those are the three things I think an educator should have.
I'm glad that you spoke about adaptability and innovation here. I would like to ask Radhika ma'am that you in your work at Inspire have focused on preparing students for 21st century economy. How would you actually define a 21st century educator according to you?
So I'll first, I'm an educationist. I've been very passionate about education. I've been a teacher, and after that, I now have my education consulting company. And I am an educationist from the previous century. So yeah, and today you call me. So, and I got thinking about it. What is it that makes me an educator? What are the skills that make me an educator of the 21st century? And I had this little experience with Utkarsh when I was, thinking about coming for this seminar, and we decided to have a Skype call. And so I'm very comfortable with Skype. So we came on Skype, and the Skype, we couldn't hear each other. So he says, "Ma'am, go to Hangout." And I was like, "Hangout? Okay." And I just got my new smartphone, and I said, "Okay, I can do it." And how difficult can it be? Okay, it seems to be the same thing. It's same video, same thing. So I think so within 4-5 minutes, Utkarsh, we were on Hangout together. Yeah. And that's when I'm thinking, so what are the skills that I got from my this thing? So I think so it's problem solving, it's critical thinking, and the total fear, is not there. I mean, so what? If I don't do it, so what? So I think so educators of the 21st century, like the P said, have to be able to adapt, to be able to innovate, and just think. And I think so that's very, very critical, because our education system has been, it's been all facts. It's all been facts. You have to learn and you have to deliver. But it's changing, and the educator has to really move from facts to skills. So I feel these are the skills that they need.
Ma'am, based on the answer you have just given, I would like to ask that the skills mentioned, just critical thinking, problem solving, even creativity and innovation, like ma'am mentioned. How do you bring it to the fusion of both academic as well as these 21st century skills for the schools? How actually those can be integrated in the curriculum?
I think so there's a huge gap over there. In fact, while there's a huge gap between the corporates and the way at speed at which technology is moving, and where the schools are and educators like us are. So there's a huge gap, and I think so that first needs to be reviewed, and I'll really urge some education company to do something about teachers. How do you bring us up to your
My take on that would be, see, we need to delve a little deeper. It's all very fancy to say that we are using 21st century skills, and most people, if you really dwell deeper into what they mean, they don't know what that means. So if you talk about, for example, you're talking about metacognition. Now, most people will say it's learning about learning and then leave it at that. But I think we need to think about metacognition being what strategies are being used. Does the learner know about those? When and why of those strategies is he using it? And especially, and the most important thing is the student is he efficient enough to have self-reflection, to know what he actually needs? So metacognition is just not learning about learning. You need to dwell deeper.
So also with the growth of technology, we can say that it has to be adopted very well in the classroom and effectively, if you can say. So it would be great if you can share some of the classroom practices of using technology as one of because it is one of the critical skills among all other equals that students and teachers need today.
So for technology integration, I have these 5 points as the rules of technology integration, you can say. So the first one being that, I'm just going to read them out because I'll digress. The first one being, have you actually analyzed what the software and hardware can do for whatever you're planning? The other one being, Is the integration going to elevate your learning experience, or are you going to just be doing the same thing? The third is the integration there in your plan? Because at most times what happens is if it's not planned, then you tend to forget to do it. Then have you checked all the logistics? I mean, you go into a classroom, you have a website plan, and you go in and your IT manager has blocked it. And the children, because of their using their own username password, they can't get in. You know, little things like that. That can really put off the technology integration in the classroom. And the last and the most important thing is the child control of that technology? If the child is not controlled of that technology, your integration is not happening. That's my take on it.
I guess the points answered one of my questions about why technology should be integrated, because the part of the reasons behind the use of technology is a first step actually for the teacher.
Right.
Samir, a good question for you. I recently got a quote that teachers will not be replaced by technology, but teachers who use technology will replace those who don't. So, do you agree with this?
I do agree for the most part to that, with one caveat is I think at the end of the day you need a good teacher. So a good teacher will be able to do work with or without technology. I think, I guess to kind of to Dipti Man's point, I like the 5 points she's listed out. I think the one thing I might add to that is that I think teachers need to have a very clear understanding of what the objective is for the day's lesson. And then they use the technology and then see, did the technology help me get to the objective for the day or not, right? So, unless you're doing that kind of testing and then checking and then kind of filtering back in, you're not really sure if you're using technology effective or not. So, this is kind of a roundabout answer to your question is like, you know, will the teacher that does not able to use technology, will they be kind of eliminated? I think that the average teacher is going to have to learn how to use technology. That said, like, you know, some of the best teachers are going to be the old school teachers that are not going to use technology, and because they're such fantastic teachers, they'll be able to adopt. But I do think there's going to be efficiencies in the system by using technology. Yeah.
Great, Samir. You mentioned that the learning outcome should be like known before.
Yeah.
So herein comes the role of the leader.
Exactly.
I guess. So what, according to you, separates the leader who is committed to integrating those skills in the school and in the college from others? What, according to you, separates those leaders?
I think the biggest thing that separates that type of leader is a leader that's open to new ideas and open to letting the teachers take some control. It's kind of the leader that has a really good balance between promoting delegation as well as accountability, right? I think those are kind of the two ends of the spectrum when you're a leader. Some leaders are too much about accountability and they kind of want to micromanage everything. Other leaders will just delegate everything and will just let the teachers do whatever without ever really holding them accountable to learning outcomes. And I think that leader that's able to find that right balance between accountability and delegation is the one that's really going to allow these 21st century skills to flourish in their schools.
I spoke to Radhika ma'am last time, and she told me that a role of the leader or the administrator is very important for a teacher, because in the current age, if a teacher is trying to practice new practices and she needs the support, she needs those tools and resources right in the places. So what does the administrator play? How does the administrator play a role here?
I mean, I'd like to just do a reality check. I mean, who are teachers? Who are the people who walk into this profession in our country? They are actually, I mean, I've done so much of training and I go across the country to schools. I hardly ever seen a hand go up saying, I'm passionate about teaching. I chose teaching. All of us came by default. We are housewives, okay, who have walked into this profession, okay? But that doesn't give us the excuse to not be professional, to not move. Well, if you came by default, either leave it, but if you're here, then you jolly well be responsible and do something about it, okay? So I'm not justifying for the teacher, but you should understand that's the mindset of a teacher who walks in with just a basic graduation, done a B.Ed, gave 2,000, got the degree, and has walked in. Okay, and then there's fantastic technology products that have come, which are actually amazing. I'm in fact working with launching a tablet for small preschoolers. So I do see it, I see the impact of technology, which is amazing. But how do you, I think so everybody must now start thinking, how do we bridge this gap? Because I've had clients who've taken technology products to schools and said, kuch nahi ho sakta. The teacher refuses to even enter the lab. So I think so she's of course shy of it also. She doesn't have the motivation, but we need to have some. So my thing to administrators and leaders is we have to think of a program where teachers get educated in this whole thing. They don't get intimidated. It's great. Technology will do half your work. So, so how do you actually, I think so there needs to be an on-job training which is extremely critical. While the leaders can be open-minded, but how do you take this whole team with you is what I feel needs to be done. And eventually, I feel we need to relook at our curriculum, because our curriculum is still based on 100 out of 100. So in the end, we're talking of 21st century skills, but we are still rote and marks, and you get into a great college. So yeah, lots of questions and thoughts on that.
So, ma'am.
Can I ask a question to Sunil? In your exposure at Harvard and Columbia, can you please give some anecdotal examples of how the technology intervention was positively reinforced in those institutions? And how have students transformed the use of technology from where they were and where they are?
Yeah, so I guess let me give you both examples. So I'll give you an example where it wasn't so effective, and then I'll give you an example where it was effective, yeah? So we did an experiment in New York where we were looking at 3 different companies who I can't say, but 3 different companies. They had these learning platforms in poor areas in New York City, and we did it randomized. So some of the kids got platform A, some got platform B, some got platform C, and some got the control group, which was just regular teaching for their maths instruction for the day. And when we looked across the 4, we actually found that even though the kids that were on the technology, it seemed like they were so engaged, right? And that those classes, they had less discipline problems, they had less issues, whereas in the control group where there was no technology, there was more kids being sent out of the classroom and more of that discipline problems. At the end of 3 years, when we looked at the learning outcomes, it was basically similar across all three platforms plus the control group. So the technology itself, by itself, wasn't able to have kind of a positive impact on the students, okay? Which is kind of why I think maybe I don't want to be pessimistic about technology. I think there's a lot of great tools there, but I think I think it's like putting the cart before the horse, right? Before we talk about technology, we need to make sure we have foundational pedagogical instructional practices first, and then those teachers will figure out how they can use the technology effectively. To give you an example of where I think it was sound is we took over some of the schools in Houston, some of the worst performing schools in Houston, and one of the things that we kind of integrated into the school model is how do you use data coming from interim assessments to drive the instruction in your school, right? So this is not necessarily at the student level, it's at the teacher level, like Dipti was saying. And so before there was no real system for tracking the interim assessments, and they would give exams and then that would be it, and then they would just teach the next lesson. But integrating some technology in there, we kind of developed a way for them to track how the students were doing on various subjects. And by tracking that and then having the teachers get that data through technology, they were able to kind of change their lesson plans based on how the kids were doing in the exams. And that we found had actually a pretty decent impact. So that's kind of both sides of the coin.
So, I would like to ask Deepti ma'am as well on this, that what would be that starting point before we even think of technology integration? Like he mentioned about the instructional design, and from the teacher's perspective, you need to know those kind of things.
Yeah, I'm going to answer this. Am I audible? Yeah, I'm going to answer this question as a research scholar. I am doing my PhD in educational technology, and my model is based on integrating technology for teachers. So based on that, I am actually putting forward a model wherein we are going to get the teachers to develop core teams in schools. So rather than, one person saying, yeah, I'm really good at technology and I can do this thing and the other. So we have like a core team which does things together and thinks together. So you have like a common knowledge which is being generated. Common knowledge is a phrase which Anne Edwards, University of Oxford, uses a lot, and she's done a lot of research on that. My model actually has 6 modules. So we start with the planning of teaching and learning using educational technology. So teachers are given exposure to what a lesson plan, like you said, should look like. We cannot have technology and move our lesson around it. We need to have a lesson first, and the pedagogy is right first. And then if you think you can integrate technology, you do that. Then we start exploring teaching and learning online, like MOOCs and Udemy and Moodle and all of that. That's the second bit of it. And then we dwell upon managing educational technology in teaching and learning. So in managing the people who are actually undergoing this training, they are exposed to the policy. What should be the ICT policy for the school? Is there acceptable use policy? What are the children going to do? What is the role of the IT manager? So they actually get together and discuss all of that to get into the thick of it. What is technology? If I'm buying this product or if I'm buying this software, have I looked into all the pros and cons? Have I gone on Google? I mean, it's as simple as that, and read reviews about it. What is it going to do for my learning? The most important question. So that's in the managing bit of it. And then you assess and evaluate using educational technology. So a whole lot of peripherals, a whole lot of Web 2.0 tools which can be used to assess and evaluate what teaching and learning is happening in the classroom. Then the 5th element is new media for an inclusive classroom. So what differentiating strategies are you using technology? I still maintain that educational technology should be pervasive, not intrusive. We still want our children to be using their heads and their hearts, their hands. We want technology to be there when it's being used, and then to be tucked away when it's not. We want the children to be in the fields. We want them collaborating, talking to each other, not tweeting to each other, and things like that. And the last module that we actually implement is each gadget. If you have, this is actually a customized sort of a module wherein we go into the school, and if they have, say, interactive whiteboards, a visualizer, so whatever hardware they have, this module is actually customized according to that. So once this entire 6, we've already had a run of 3 cycles for this program, and there's going to be one in Bhutan, wherein 288 teachers will be trained on the same program. And I hope we are hearing a lot of good feedback from teachers who say that now they can, actually get into the classrooms and do stuff because they have the back-end knowledge of it. So it's Bhutan end of next month.
Great.
Yeah.
Before I move on with the next question, I would like if someone in the audience has some question or doubt.
Yeah, definitely.
Yes, please.
Yeah, my question is to all of you. I'm speaking from Alliance, where I'm hiring those people who come out of all this modern technology and the training and the teaching, and the students who at the end come to me for jobs, sort of thing. How do you ensure that this, with all the technology and the 21st century media, etc., you do not lose sight of the basics of education, which is what I find lacking? Like basic grammar, basic spelling, all this. There's a spell check, but if you don't know the spelling of the word, the spell check will give you gobbledygook, and that is what's coming out. So as a result, at the end of it, out of, say, if 100 people apply for a job, I find barely 20 are even worth being considered. So is there any way in which you're looking at technology to ensure that it actually meets the requirements of the workforce and the employers?
I won't be the best person to answer that. I'm being very frank. The minute you talk about workforce, the minute you talk about industry, you've lost me. Because I am just involved, too involved in what's happening in the school sort of scenario? Maybe you can answer that better.
Yeah, I think you're hitting on a good point. I think it's that, I think it's similar to something I said earlier, that the technology is not a replacement for the skills that you're talking about. And when we look at the research to say what is important for our students in the labor market, it is those basic skills that you're talking about. So no matter how well they can use their smartphone or a computer, if they are not, literate, if they don't have really strong numeracy skills, they're not going to be able to adapt to the coming years, right? So I might be able to really use my iPhone 5 really well, but when Google, comes up with Google glasses on my head or something, right? Like I need to be able to have the skills necessary to use that tool as well. And that comes from, I know I sound very much like a traditionalist, even being like a somewhat younger person, but I think you really need to have your basic core skill set down. And I think that's a great point.
That talks about how our education system is. You can pass an exam on road still. So we are not moving also at that rate. Yeah, I'm also a little pessimistic about it. And you see resumes and you're like, wow. And when you meet the person, you're like, oh, what happened? So yes, I think so. The whole education system needs a major revamp. The way we teach, what we teach. So the skills have to be given to the children. In the end, whatever skills you may do at the junior level, in the end, the child has to get the marks to enter college. So,
just to add to that, I think in India, we all are a little bit pessimistic about what's happening in the classroom regarding the curricula or maybe the skill sets that the teachers come with. But on a more positive note, I think we are better off than the Western countries. Or I was in a classroom at Seoul, and the children had these tablets, and they were just sitting with tablets doing nothing. Wherein if you go into our schools, children are running around and they're just doing their thing. So we are better off. And I think if we strategize and we plan properly, we will get there. There is hope.
no, there's
And
always hope.
there is hope.
Yes.
Yeah, there is hope. And I think if you if you want to use technology for the masses like MOOCs, why not do a MOOC on something which is related to values? So EdTech has been doing a lot of stuff already. A seminar like this. So maybe that's entrepreneurship.
I guess a shorter answer to that from my perspective would be that you need to have some community partnerships as well. PPPs between the K-12 higher education as well as the business leaders. So if that is brought in somewhere, I guess the perspective of a workforce is connected to the higher ed and then to the K-12, because K-12 is preparing students for the college and then college is preparing them for the career.
Can I ask a question? I want to share certain things.
Yeah.
Well, I'm a principal of a Delhi University college, and the students were provided with laptops, all the students of first year, and teachers also got the laptops. So I thought, when you get the laptops, can we use technology and see to it that they are not only using only for Facebook or internet? So I said, okay, let me organize a conference on new frontiers in global learning and communication. I had a collaboration with the University of Massachusetts, from where the faculty came to train more than 50 odd faculty from all over India. Now, university was giving us the Wi-Fi connection. What happened? 15 days before the workshop started, the connection did not work. Okay, what do? I'm in an urban area, in a good setting, but the thing did not work. I went to MTNL. I said, can you give me 4 connections, 60 computers I can connect? Well, again, it didn't work. Then I got dongles, 70 dongles. When I got 70 dongles from one vendor, it did not, the speed was less. I couldn't help it. I could use only at 35 dongles at a time. Now I ask a question. At grassroots level, what are we going to do? This is an urban area that we are facing. What about the grassroots level? How will we do? But with 35 dongles, I was able to conduct the workshop on MOOCs, etc. All the latest technology I did somehow manage for 6-day workshop. And they were highly satisfied. Another thing which I asked, If we have motivated teachers, innovative and creative teachers, they will themselves adopt to these new technologies. But what is happening today? Industry is trusting the technology. I think it has to come from the teachers. We require this technology and will adapt to these new technologies. The mindset of the teacher has to change completely. And it has to be integrated. Once a creative and innovative teacher is there, automatically it comes inside the classroom. A chalk and a duster, a teacher can be very good, as has been pointed out by one of the panelists here. Because if you use a chalk and a duster, a good teacher can do marvelous teaching even in a rural area where these technologies are not available. But I think these technologies do help the teachers, and another thing which is required is motivated students. Are they wanting to learn? What are they wanting to learn? So this is another thing. And if we can teach it in a very interesting manner, I think that will be the thing which is first which we have to see. It is not only technology, it has to come from within. And if we have these good teachers, because I tried thrusting some technologies, it didn't work in my college. And therefore, now the teachers, after getting trained, they want to learn it and they want to implement it in the classroom.
I guess
And another point which I want to make, all these technologies are too costly. How are we going to lower the cost for the grassroots levels, and even we cannot afford the technologies? How are we going to bridge that gap? Thank you.
Okay, can I make a small point, observing from what ma'am just said, and she has rightly said that there are certain areas where technology is thrusted upon the system, because technology development is happening at its own pace. You can't stop that, right? So, but somehow, there have been some examples in the past where, due to our, some of our enlightened political leaders, the technology has been distributed and the technology has been sold back. I'm really sorry to say that in Uttar Pradesh, I have no hesitation in naming the state, the technology was given free of cost to the students at the cost of the exchequer. The student goes back to the market and sells off his laptop, right? So whom do you blame in that case?
Just like what ma'am said just now, you
So
need
I
motivated
will-
teachers. And I know of this case because the first instant we had told the government that we could do a training, like you said, we need the motivated teachers behind the hardware. Unless you motivate them,
No, so
it's not happening.
I would go to Sameer's point. Have you defined the objective? If you haven't defined the objective, then please go back to the old traditional method of teaching, which is books. It is still better. At least the student is not going to trade off his freebie with some money and use that money for something else.
I guess even she made a point here, and Radhika ma'am also brought that up, that lack of passionate teachers is there. And but do you think that it connects to the teacher education then?
I think if you just look at technology integration, like I said at the beginning, that it does not have to be there all the time. We want it to be pervasive, to be done away with when we don't need it. But you do need teachers who are actually trained to use. And like I could cite an example, in one of the schools before the iPads were implemented, the teachers got the iPad 6 months before. So they actually had a play, they could actually build the curriculum according to what they wanted to do in the classroom. And then when they went into the classroom, because your learner's already there, he's already doing things with the iPad. So the teachers need to be empowered before any of this change can happen. I don't know if somebody has a solution for getting the costs down. Maybe there is some entrepreneur here who can have a solution for that.
I guess definitely that is one of the points, and that is not the concern of only India, but I have spoken to many people, and that is actually the motive of many companies abroad, even abroad, sorry. And the issue to bring the educational technology to lower cost is actually being practiced outside India, and I hope that companies in India will also focus on that. I would like if someone has another last question to the panelists.
Thank you. Just to support the gracious lady sitting by me, she said innovative teachers are needed, and I think all of us support that good idea. I want to raise another small thing is the quality of reception by the students and the adaptability, how he adapts or she adapts to whatever is being taught to her. I want to take you about 60 or 6 decades back when I was studying in 6th class. My attention to whatever the teacher was saying used to be much higher level, is different. When we are discussing about the advancement of technology, the explosion what has taken place, I think most important thing is we have to find some ways and means to see that whatever is being taught to them, either by the use of the advanced or modern technology or otherwise, it should be received well and then adapted by the students. I don't know. You may like to develop on this. Thank you.
I'd like to mention over here, I have 2 daughters, and whenever I talk to them, one is 21 and 16, it always hits me that when I was at that age, I was very, very different. I knew very little. The mature thinking that has, that they come up with, and I think so technology has brought them up to this level, and therefore, to what you just said, children need to be given that kind of engagement, that kind of stimulus. If a teacher brings her notes, again what she used last year, and again comes and just gives information, the child is not going to be as engaged. The relationship between a teacher, like you said, teacher was a guru, but today the teacher has to earn the guru status, you know. So she has to be as high with the child. I mean, I take advice from a 21-year-old, talks about how children have changed. So I think so teachers need to bring up their quality so that children can also look up to them.
I guess it has been...
I have a point to make here.
Yeah.
Can I make an observation here, please? Dr. Gujral from Guru Nanak Institute of Management, director there. See, I feel that technology today has to be seen in the larger context. I mean, if we continue to use the technology of yesterday, today, then we are definitely out of the market tomorrow. That's for sure. And also we need to see that we can only supplement technology with education, we can never supplant it. Also at a higher level, the government has to, as ma'am rightly pointed out, that it's the government to see, government to bring in technology. I mean, if the government is not coming forward to bring technology in education, how can we at the school level, you know, bring that change? Well, these are the few observations, you know, which I thought.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank
actually,
you.
yes, my name is Naveen Pathak. I'm based out of US, and few things I like to share here is, I'm not from the IT, but from information security. I work with US Defense, and couple of points I have. The best technology is the one that you don't even see working. When you're reading Times of India online, you don't worry about using Firefox or whatever it is. So it's not about the technology as much. One thing I remember, I was in 8th, 9th grade. 20 years back, I moved to US, but at that time I was in India. And in Mayapuri, I was with my dad, and I saw a mechanic shop says something engineering works, and this is what I thought engineer does, welding. Now I don't want to become an engineer. Now ask somebody in 10th grade, a day in the life of a doctor, does he know? A day in life of an engineer, does he know? He does not know that. So what is to be a consultant, what is to be a principal, what is to be a CEO, what is to be an entrepreneur? They don't have any clue. Running around in a school does not matter much. What matters is what environment. Now that environment, I'm taking an example. Look at Meetup Group. I don't know how many of you have heard of Meetup Groups. You go online and then you say Meetup Group faculty. You will not find groups here. And look into New York City, Edison, and you will find thousands. These faculties come, sit together, collaborate. Why not the retired faculty sit in one place in a corner and says, you know what? This is a meetup group. We are retired, we are sitting idle. Any student have a question, come to me. Free. That can be done very easily. That's the best use of technology. I don't know what technology did Einstein learn. I don't know what technology Newton had access to. But standing on the shoulder of giants is the best way to move forward. Einstein became Einstein as a patent clerk. He was getting access to so much of information. Opening up the mind, ready to change. Change is one word. We are so comfortable in our environment. We don't want to come out of it. It scares us because we use the word technology. Don't say technology. Technology exists. Coursera is teaching courses. Does it say what LMS it is using? Do you worry about LMS? Or do you worry about the content is giving the best way from the best? So let's not worry about technology. Let's worry about the outcome, as pointed out right. Learning. If I say there were two best friends, there's a movie, two best friends, and this guy comes up and he took them to a village where he pays them 5,000 rupees to kill a bad guy. Suddenly Sholay comes to the mind. Why? Because it was entertaining. You bring the best content to them. I know I cannot show my student fabrication of fiber, but I know there is content that exists. Use it best. Find that best. The best technology you all carry on our head, called brain. But we don't use it much.
I guess Mr. Naveen brought a great point here, that change is one thing that is to be brought in the mindset. And even in one of the recent reports, IBM pointed that the two most important skills are creativity and the adaptability, like even Ms. Deepti said. So I guess it has been a brilliant, informative discussion, and I would like to thank all our panelists and even the audience who has been great in the session. And thank you so much.
Thank you, Utkarsh. Thanks to the panelists. Again, my apologies for not giving enough time, because this was a session where anyone can be drawn in and people can participate wholeheartedly. So thank you very much.